What's up everybody, this is Vando and you're watching Deadlock School, a channel dedicated to helping you learn how to master the game of Deadlock. In this video, I'll be reviewing items that are incredibly strong when you build them in the right situation. So these will be items that help you counter specific heroes or help you get an edge in a specific situation. We're going to start out looking at the weapon items. So the first item I want to look at on the list here is going to be monster rounds. Monster rounds is going to give you 30% weapon damage against NPCs, so that means troopers and towers. It's also going to give you 30% bullet resist against the same NPCs. It gives you a little bit of health and a point of regen. So the reason this is a very good situational item, I think everybody knows that this is a really great item to use when you're jungling, especially in the mid game. It's going to help you clear out camps a lot faster, helps you clear out troopers a lot faster, take down turrets. But I want to talk about why this is good for lane skirmishing, and that's specifically because of the 30% bullet resist versus NPCs. So I like to make sure I build this if I'm in a lane where there's a lot of fighting under the bridge. We're going back and forth quite a bit. I might be diving on the enemy somewhat, especially with Lash here. So if you have the 30% bullet resist, that's going to greatly increase your resistance against the enemy troopers that will be just pelting you whenever you do a dive there. So I like to build this if I'm in an especially kind of fighty lane there. That's where monster rounds is going to be good. And then of course it's going to transition into the mid game and the late game where you're just kind of running around jungling and clearing out waves of troopers there. The next item to look at here is going to be Fleetfoot. Fleetfoot is going to give you 90 bonus health. It increases your slide distance and it's going to remove the movement penalty while you're shooting. The big benefit on Fleetfoot though is going to be the movement speed whenever you activate it there. So if you activate Fleetfoot, it's going to give you a 3 meter per second movement speed for 4 seconds. This is very good for disengaging and it's very good for chasing. So if you're in a position where you might be fighting enemies that have slowing bullets or Mystic Slow or something like that, this is going to help you kind of get away from them. So very good in that situation. And then I want to talk about transitioning Fleetfoot into Heroic Aura. Heroic Aura is just an excellent item by itself. It's going to give you 20% bullet lifesteal, a big chunk of bonus health, so you get 150. You get 1 meter move speed per second, which really cannot be understated how important that is. There are not very many items that give raw move speed, and Heroic Aura is one of them. Any nearby NPC is going to get a 40% fire rate, just native, that's just passive. So it really is very helpful in pushing down towers. It's also going to give you an active bonus movement speed and fire rate. So you get an additional 2 meters per second when you activate it, plus a 25% fire rate. So this is very similar to Fleetfoot. It's going to give you 3 total meters per second move speed while it's active. It's going to last for 6 seconds. So it lasts a little bit longer, except it transitions one of those move speed points into just always on. So you just always get that passively. Heroic Aura obviously much better than Fleetfoot, but it is more expensive. So there's a little opportunity cost there. I like to either build Fleetfoot early or skip it entirely and move into Heroic Aura late. I use Heroic Aura a lot if I'm going to be playing a split pushing hero. So and if you're a McGinnis main, this is basically mandatory item for McGinnis because it's going to boost the fire rate of all your turrets and it's just going to help you kind of zip around the map and do a lot of split pushing there. Very good items, Fleetfoot, Heroic Aura, very good for disengage and very good for chasing. Okay, the next item I want to look at is Escalating Resilience. Escalating Resilience is going to give you 12% fire rate and 14% weapon damage on top of the native 14% that you get for a $3,000 weapon item. And then the passive is going to grant bullet resist. Whenever you hit an enemy hero, it's going to stack up to 40%. You get 2% for every shot. So I'm just going to buy it real quick and we'll go run over to the target dummy and you can see how it works here. So if I just hit him with a handful of shots, if you look on the left hand side, you can see I get a 40% bullet resist. This lasts for 20 seconds. This is a massive, massive buff. 40% bullet resist for 20 seconds. It's going to last for the entire engagement with a fight. You only have to land a handful of shots. Anytime you make a shot, it's going to refresh the duration there. So this is an incredibly powerful item. I like to build Escalating Resilience versus Haze, Wraith, Gun McGinnis, Warden, just any heroes that's going to be shooting you quite a bit. It's also good, but maybe a little less effective versus Abrams or Shiv and Furnace. They do a lot of damage through spirit, but they also are going to be doing a lot of physical damage as well, so it's good versus them. If you stack this with another item, for example, like improved bullet resist, you're going to get up to 70% resistance. You can also stack it with Titanic Magazine, Point Blank, or Frenzy and get up to 50-ish%. So there's a little bit of fall off there in the stacking resistance once you get past 50%. But still, 50% bullet resist from your weapon items is pretty huge. This is a very good item, of course, to build on any kind of tanky hero. So if you're playing Mo and Krill, Abram, Shiv, anyone, Lash to some extent, anybody that's going to be in the middle of the fight, this is going to be a very good item for them. Okay, the next item I want to look at is Sharpshooter. Sharpshooter is going to give you a flat 20% ammo buff. It's going to give you 15% added to your weapon fall off range. It's going to add 35% to your zoom. It gives you 200 bullet shield health, so that's a pretty good chunk. And then the passive there, this is the big ticket here, is it deals additional weapon damage beyond a minimum distance from your target. It gives you 70%. So I'll go ahead and buy Sharpshooter, and I'm going to kind of demonstrate the power of this item. So if I'm up close, I make one shot, you see they're going to do about 10 damage each, okay? If I go far away, I go past the fall off zone, they're going to do about maybe 12, 13 damage. If I'm right here in the sweet spot, the middle damage area, you'll see that's going to jump up, okay? That's going to do about 16, 17 damage per shot. Okay, if I'm up close, I'm going to do 30. If I'm mid-range, I'm going to do 50. And I'm far away, I'm going to do about 40. Super far away, I'm going to do about 30 again. So you can see this is going to be the general fighting distance you're going to be from people in a lot of fights. So this item is not purely for Vindicta and Grey Talon. Okay, this is good for anybody that's going to be building a gun build. You can get Sharpshooter. It is expensive. Sharpshooter is going to cost you $42.50. You have to upgrade it out of long range. So this one is expensive. It's a little bit more of a kind of an investment to buy this item. It's going to set you back quite a bit. I like to build Sharpshooter if I am behind. So if I'm in a lane that's just getting pummeled, we're losing lane, I'm going to be defending the Guardian, I'm going to be defending the Walker. You can stand further back, you can do a ton of damage from far away. You can combo this with something like Mystic Shot or something like that. And you're going to be able to stand far back and just do a ton of damage and help kind of defend. Okay, the next one to look at in the weapon category is going to be Toxic Bullets. Toxic Bullets gives you 100 bonus health, and then the passive there is going to add a bleed. You get a 5% total life per second bleed, and then it's also going to add a healing reduction. So you get minus 65% healing reduction. So this is part of, I like to call it the holy trinity of healing reduction. You get Toxic Bullets, you get Heal Bane, and you get Decay. And between the three of those, you're going to just kind of counter anybody that does massive healing. So anybody that's built Leech, of course, this is going to be particularly good against heroes like Abrams, Shiv, Infernus, Ivy, Lash, McGinnis, Dynamo, Mo and Krill, Viscous. Anybody that has healing built into their kit, this is almost a must-have, especially against a Fed Abrams. You're going to be almost mandatory buying Toxic Bullets and Decay against Abrams. So this one, I think a lot of people know how Toxic Bullets works. It is a little bit expensive there. You're going to be paying 3,000 souls, and it does not really give anything except 100 bonus health and the native damage. But the bleed is effective. You do have to stack it up. So we'll buy a copy of Toxic Bullets real quick, and you see it doesn't just automatically apply. You're going to have to make a couple shots with it. And then just hitting a shot is going to refresh that duration. So you can see it does a pretty good chunk. Obviously now the target dummy has a lot of health. So when it ticks for 5% on the target dummy, that's a lot of hit points. But you can see how this could be very effective, holding that dot up as you kind of get further into the game, hitting somebody with Toxic Bullets over and over so that you can get the bleed damage. You want that spirit tick hitting somebody. The spirit damage there on the bleed, that is super important for triggering Heal Bane. So we're going to talk about Heal Bane in a little bit, but Heal Bane applies whenever you do spirit damage, and that's going to add an additional 40% healing reduction. So if you are a hero that does not do constant spirit damage, so Infernus, for example, he just is going to be doing that spirit tick over and over with his dot. But if you're playing a hero that does not do a lot of spirit damage with their gun, then you're going to want to combo Healbane with Toxic Bullets, and you won't really want to build Healbane until you've already got Toxic Bullets. Okay, the last one I want to look at here in the weapon category is going to be Crippling Headshot. Now, Crippling Headshot, this is kind of hard to recommend as a situational item because it's 6,200 souls. So this is a late game item. You'll build this towards the end of the game. It's going to give you 20 bonus weapon damage on top of the 18 that you already get. You're going to get bullet steal and life steal. So it's kind of like a mini leech on top of being, some pretty good damage there. And then the passive is the important part. Headshots are going to reduce the target's resistance, bullet resistance, and spirit resistance by 24%. And that's going to last for 4 seconds. And that gets reapplied every time you hit a headshot. So this is borderline mandatory at the end of the game if you have a Fed Abrams, a Fed Shiv, a Fed Mo and Krill, anybody that's building lots of armors. This is going to cut that armor by 24%. There are not a lot of items in the game that let you reduce armor. So you can kind of pair Crippling Headshot there with Soul Shredder bullets. That's it. It doesn't necessarily reduce armor, but it does amplify your spirit damage by 10% every time you land a shot there. And then you can also pair it up there with Bullet Resist Shredder. So Bullet Resist Shredder is going to do minus 12% bullet resist whenever you do spirit damage. And that lasts for 8 seconds. So if you combo, like if you're facing a Fed Abrams, you can combo your Crippling Headshot with your Toxic Bullets and your Healbane, and that Abrams is going to go down. That's going to be very effective in taking an Abrams down towards the end of the game. Same thing for Mo and Krill and Shiv. So don't let them get out of control. Make sure you're building the right items to stop them. Okay, so now we're going to move into the Vitality category here, and there are 3 main items in the $500 range. Or I'm sorry, there are 3 main items in the 500 soul range that I want to talk about. They are Extra Health, Extra Regen, and Healing Right. And I'm sure everybody knows how to build these items. I want to talk about when I personally prefer to build these items. So the first one here is Extra Health. It's going to add 160 bonus health and a 6% weapon damage bump. I like to build this one when I'm ahead. So if I'm stomping out my lane, I got a good lead on them, I'm going to build Extra Health. That's going to make it even harder for them to fight me in lane. So that helps me kind of secure the first Guardian. Next one here is Extra Regen. I like this when it's even. When we're trading back and forth, that's when I go for Extra Regen. It gives you 3 health regen, 10% ammo, and 25% or 25 bonus health. So when you're fighting back and forth, maybe you got half your health when you go to buy. That's when I go for the Extra Regen. And then the last one here is Healing Right. Healing Right gives 45 bonus health. It has 3 spirit power, and the active there gives you a regen. So it gives you a heal over time that's going to heal you totally for 370 health over 19 seconds. So you can cast this on yourself. You can cast this on your ally. I like to build this one when I'm losing lane. So if I need big healing, that's when I'm going to go for the Healing Right. It gives you a little better bonus health than Extra Regen. And then, of course, it gives you a big bump of healing. So if I'm down to like maybe 100 hit points when I go buy my first item there, I'm going for Healing Right. I'm going to buy Healing Right. I'm going to try hide behind the corner, and I'm going to try to heal up there for about 400 health. So another benefit to the Healing Right, and this is why a lot of people like this item, is because in the mid game, you'll see that it also gives you sprint speed bonus. So it's going to give you 2 meter per second sprint speed when it's active. It's going to be active there for 19 seconds. So this gives you a lot of running when you're going from jungle camp to jungle camp. If you're trying to move from one lane to another, that's going to give you a big sprint bonus. So this one is kind of a little bit more beneficial later into the game than the other 2. So kind of keep that in mind when you're trying to pick between one of those 3 items. I build one of these 3 items in pretty much every single game. Okay, the next one to look at here are going to be the armors. So we're going to look at armors and we're going to look at barriers, and I'm going to talk about why I like to build one or the other in a specific situation. So bullet armor is going to give you 25% bullet resist, 6% damage. Spirit armor is going to give you 20% spirit resist and 5 spirit power. So you can see you get a little bit less spirit resistance there. Then when you improve it, that's going to bump up to 50% bullet resist, 10% weapon damage, and 45% spirit resist and 8 spirit power. So resistances, these are good anytime. Resistances are going to help out any game, especially and like the longer the game goes on, the more valuable the resistance is going to be because it's going to scale with your hit points. So you can never really go wrong buying resistances. But I want to talk about the barriers now. and when you might necessarily want to buy a barrier instead of resistance. So we've got combat barrier here. It gives you 325 bullet shield, and then it's going to add a 22% weapon bump and a 6% fire rate whenever the shield is active. And then you got Enchanter's Barrier that's going to give you 300 spirit health shield, and then it's going to give you 20 spirit power and 8 cooldown reduction, 8% cooldown reduction when it's active. So when you want to build barriers here, I like to build barriers when I am winning. So if I have a good grip on the lane, this is another one of those kind of win more items. It's going to give me a shield that's an immediate bump on my hit points, like a big fat bump on the hit points, and then it's going to increase my killing potential. So I'm going to get spirit power, and that's a chunk of spirit power. 20 spirit power is a ton, or I'm going to get some weapon damage and fire rate. And then also Enchanter's Barrier here, you get some cooldown reduction. There are only a handful of items in the game that give cooldown reduction. So 8% is not a ton, but it does give you a little something there that you can't really get from many other items. So both of the barriers, they're good when you're ahead. I also like to build them if I'm going to be playing a hero that is not necessarily going to be a big fat tanky hero. So they're very good for maybe Grey Talon and Vindicta. So if you're playing back, the barriers are pretty good. I like to build them on Paradox, for example. So that's when I like to build the barriers there, is if I'm ahead or if I'm playing a character that is not necessarily going to be in the middle of the fight. Okay, the next one to look at here is going to be Healbane. So we already talked about Healbane a little bit, so I won't hit on it too hard, but this is, like I said, part of the holy trinity of your healing reduction items. It gives you 75 bonus health, and it's going to reduce healing by 40% anytime you apply spirit damage. So as we showed earlier, it works very good with toxic bullets. It also works very good with decay. So both of those items are going to apply a spirit damage over time. You do not really want to buy Healbane unless you have one of those items, or unless your hero naturally applies spirit damage on their bullet shots, or some kind of dot like Shiv's dagger, for example. What I want to point out extra on Healbane that I think people might sleep on a little bit is you get the heal on kill. So if you have Healbane, anytime you kill a hero, you're going to get a 350 health, kind of like just an immediate healing, right? Boom, it's just going to hit you for 350 health. This is particularly good on heroes like Shiv and Vindicta that are kill shot heroes. So, Shiv's ultimate is going to let him jump on somebody and execute him. Vindicta's got her sniper rifle that she can just kind of confirm kills with. So anybody that's going to be confirming kills, this Healbane is a very helpful item on them. All right, now I want to look at debuff reducer. So debuff reducer and debuff remover. We're going to start out on reducer here. It gives you 75 bonus health, 6% weapon damage, and the passive here is going to reduce negative duration of status effects for 30%. So this is incredibly good against any kind of hero that does dot damage, any kind of hero that does any kind of stun. So it's particularly good against Pocket. It's going to help negate Pocket's ult, Infernus dot, Grey Talon's trap, Lady Guy's Malice stacks is going to make them last less time there. Mirage's Jin's Mark, 7 stun, makes it last less time. Shiv's dagger makes the bleed shorter. It's going to help with Vindicta staking you to the ground, Warden's Cage. So debuff reducer, very good. There's probably going to be at least one hero in your game that this is going to be effective against. So it is a little bit expensive though if you want to go for the 1250 and then upgrade it there to the debuff remover. Debuff remover is a very good item. It's going to give you 125 bonus health, so it's a pretty good sized chunk. It adds 20% weapon damage. That's a pretty good bump there, especially from a healing item. And then it is going to reduce the duration up to 35%, so not much change there on the duration. But debuff remover has an active. It's going to purge all status effects that are applied to you. So this is going to be specifically good against things like Bebop's bombs, 7 stun, Warden stun. It's going to let you just kind of remove that right away. Pocket ult just lets you turn it off. You just hit the active. It's going to remove that status effect completely. The cooldown is a little bit long there. So you got 48 seconds on the cooldown there. But it is a very helpful item. It is also going to give you 3 meter move speed per second for 3 seconds after you knock off one of the debuffs. So if somebody's, if you're running away from somebody and they try to stun you and you pop your debuff remover, then you're going to be able to get away from them more effectively with your move speed. Okay, the next one to look at here is going to be Veilwalker. Veil Walker is going to add some bullet and spirit shield. You get 200 of each. It gives you a bump to your ammo and a little bit of weapon damage. Not a ton there, but a little something. And then the passive there is whenever you walk through a veil, you're going to get stealth, you're going to get move speed, and it's going to restore all your spirit and bullet shields. So this one, 18-second cooldowns, not terribly long. It's going to make you invisible for 5 seconds. It's going to give you a 4 meter per second move speed. So if you're already playing barriers, this one's kind of a no-brainer. It is a little bit expensive to add it on top of the other barriers, but it is going to give you huge barrier regen anytime you go through a veil. And then what I want to talk about as far as being a situational item is the invis. So you get a 5-second invisibility and you get a huge movement speed buff. This is incredible item for disengaging and for engaging. So if you are getting chased, you run through a veil, poof, you're gone. If you are playing up close to somebody in a lane, you're trying to gank one of their lanes, there are veils all around the lanes. You can go through a veil right before you get to the lane. And then you got 5 seconds to run up on the enemy hero and just kind of get the jump on them. So very effective item, a lot cheaper than buying Shadow Weaver, which is going to come later in the game. So I do like this item, for disengage and for engage. The next one I want to look at is Reactive Barrier. This is kind of like the no-brain version of Debuff Remover. So it's going to give you 15% ammo, gives you 75 bonus health, and 2 health regen, which is a pretty good sized bump on your health regen. And then it's going to automatically deploy a spirit shield and a bullet shield anytime you get hit with a movement disability. So it's going to give you 400 bullet shield, 200 spirit shield. This is going to counter pretty much all the same things that are countered by debuff reducer, debuff remover. Obviously not the dots, but it's going to counter all the same kind of stuns. This one is, I like to build this one specifically against Wraith and Haze because it is going to automatically deploy if you get the sleep dagger or if Wraith puts her ult on you. So if she ults you, you're going to go up in the air, but you're going to get a big bullet shield and a little bit of a spirit shield to kind of help with the cards there. So this is specifically better against those two heroes. Against the other heroes, you probably want to go more for the debuff reducer remover. Okay, now I want to look at a pair of items here. That's going to be Return Fire and Metal Skin. So we'll look at Return Fire first. It gives you 125 bonus health and 9 spirit power. And the active on this is going to automatically return damage whenever you get shot. So this is kind of like a Thorns item. It's going to give you 60% bullet damage returned, 30% spirit damage returned, and it's also going to give you a little bullet resist. Lasts for 7 seconds. That is a huge duration. Return Fire is like an I win button if you're in a one-on-one fight. So if you jump somebody and they're alone and you have Return Fire and they don't, you are going to win that fight. You're going to have it active for the entire skirmish. They're going to try to fight back. They probably won't realize that you have it, and they're going to just kill themselves fighting you. So this is a very good item if you're going to be ganking. And then the next one there is Metal Skin. Metal Skin gives you the same amount of health. It's going to give you a little spirit power and a little fire rate. And this one, it lasts half the time, so only 3.5 seconds, and you become totally immune to bullet and melee attacks. So it does not really help with spirit, but it's going to make you fully immune to bullet and melee attacks. So of course, this one is going to be, really good versus Haze. If Haze pops her ult on you, you hit your Metal Skin, that's going to get you time to run outside the area of effect. It's also going to be good versus Wraith. If she hits her ult on you, you can pop Metal Skin right before the projectile hits you. That's going to give you 3 seconds while you're in the air. It's good versus Warden if he gets you with his cage. Same thing with 7 if 7 hits your stun. Of course, it's also going to be good versus Vindicta and Yamato. So any character that can get right on top of you. So Vindicta is going to hit you with her root, and then she's going to pelt you from the air. Now that's going to do a bit of spirit damage as well, but this can at least negate the bullet damage. And then Yamato, when she jumps on top of you with her grappling hook, you can pop your Metal Skin, and you'll still eat some of the spirit damage, but this is going to help you a lot with her gun and her melee. Alright, and the last item I want to look at in the Vitality category is Rescue Beam. Rescue Beam gives you 125 health, gives you 2 meter per second sprint speed. That's a big sprint bump, and it's going to give you 9 spirit power. And then the active on this one is going to create a tether between you and another hero, and it's going to heal for 25% of the max health. Obviously, this is incredible the longer the game goes. If you're healing a 3,600 health Abrams, this is going to give him back almost 1,000 hit points. So this is very, very beneficial the farther the game goes. You can cast on yourself. You don't have to be with somebody else. But the reason this makes the reason this is a good situational item is because once you cast the tether on somebody, you can use your left mouse click and it's gonna yoink them over to you. So it kind of works like Bebop's hook, for example, except you don't have to aim it. You just click it on somebody, it's gonna automatically cast, and then you can yoink them back to you. So this was, of course, good against Bebop. Bebop hooks somebody, you hit your rescue beam on them, pull them right back to you. You got to do it fast though, so you can hit them before the bomb gets attached. This is also good against Paradox. If Paradox tries to swap somebody, you can rescue beam them back to your team. It's good versus just any kind of general stun. I like to use it against Dynamo. If Dynamo gets 2 or 3 people in his ult, you can rescue beam them out, or at least one of them. You can rescue beam them out of the ult. So this is a good one. If you're playing with a bunch of divey type heroes and you're maybe more in the back, maybe you're playing like Greytown or something like that, or maybe you're playing Paradox, for example, against an enemy Bebop, this is a good item to use just to kind of help save your teammates' bacon. And the heal is just huge. So like I said, later the game goes, the better the heal is. Okay, now we're going to get into the spirit items. The first spirit item I want to look at here is going to be Decay. So this is the last item in the Holy Trinity of healing reduction. It's going to give 7 spirit power. It's going to reduce the healing the target receives by 50%, and then it applies a bleed very similar to toxic bullets. It's going to be 3% over the course of 10 seconds. So this one, like I said, combos with Healbane. You want to buy it first so that you can get that bleed tick. That's going to keep the Healbane attached to the enemy. And then you're going to get a big healing reduction. So if you're not buying toxic bullets, you can buy Decay and Healbane together. You're going to get pretty much the same benefit, except it is an active item. So you do have to hit them with the Decay first. Decay's super good. It's really cheap. It's an excellent item to buy early on in the lane, especially against like a guy like Abrams or Mo and Krill. It's going to help out quite a bit while you're fighting them. And it's good later into the game because your 3% bleed damage, that's going to scale as the enemy's hit points go up. So the bigger they get, the more that bleed is going to tick for. Okay, now I want to look at Slowing Hex. Slowing Hex gives 1 meter per second sprint speed. It's going to add 5 spirit power. And then the active applies a 25% movement slow and 78 scaling spirit damage. So the main thing I want to look at on this item and why it's situational is because Slowing Hex is going to silence movement-based items and abilities. So this is a good counter against Abrams and Shiv. A lot of people are having trouble with Shiv. Shiv's dash is considered a movement-based ability. So if you put Slowing Hex on Shiv, he's not going to be able to use his dash on you. Same thing for Abrams' shoulder charge and lots of other moving abilities in the game. So this is a really good item that you can kind of use in combination with Silence Glyph potentially. If you were to use Slowing Hex on Shiv, that's going to stop him from dashing. And then if you also have Silence Glyph, you can apply that right afterwards and you'll get like a 6.5 second silence on his dash. So very good item, really cheap, easy to pick up there in the early game. Lots of people like to build this one for the active just as a chasing tool, but it is very good against heroes that get a lot of value out of their movement-based abilities. All right, the next one to look at here is going to be Ethereal Shift. Ethereal Shift is 3,000 souls. It does not give any passives. You only get the native 12 spirit power for the 3,000 spirit item. So not a whole lot of value on this one. Whenever you activate Ethereal Shift, it is going to basically make you invincible and untargetable for 3.5 seconds. So you kind of go into like a little trance. You cannot be targeted in that time. And then once the Ethereal Shift ends, you will get 14 bonus spirit power for 10 seconds. So this one is really useful in team fighting. If you jump into a team fight, you get there a little bit early and the entire enemy team jumps on you. You pop your Ethereal Shift, give the rest of your team time to get in there. That's going to kind of save your life. It's really good for disengaging. You can combo this item with Magic Carpet. So we have a Magic Carpet coming up in a minute. I'll show you what that looks like. Essentially though, you just pop your Magic Carpet, then you hit the Ethereal Shift, and you're going to be invincible while the Magic Carpet is channeling. And that way, as soon as the Ethereal Shift is ended, you can just zip away on the Magic Carpet. So Ethereal Shift, really good item. I like to build this one against a Fed Kelvin. If Kelvin pops his bubble on you, you can just wait a second or two and then hit your ethereal shift, and then you're going to outlast the rest of his bubble there. So very good versus him. It's also going to be very good against any kind of hero with a big stun. So if Infernus is jumping on you with his ultimate, you can wait a second until right before it's about to go off and then hit your ethereal shift. It's good versus Mirage if he gets you stuck in the tornado. If Paradox hits you with their swap, ethereal shift is going to be very useful against all those heroes. The next one to look at here is Knockdown. Knockdown gives you a stamina point. That's a huge benefit on a purple item there, is to get a stamina point. It gives you a 200 spirit shield, and it gives you 6 spirit power. So the passives on Knockdown are especially good. It gives you a really big spirit shield. It gives you a stamina point. You can't get that from a lot of different items, so that's really good. And then the active here is going to knock down and stun for almost a full second. So it's a 2-second delay once you cast it, and then after it goes off, they're going to be stunned. And it has a 45-meter casting range, so you can cast this absolutely from downtown on somebody. And you're typically going to want this against flyers. So you want to build this against Vindicta and Great Talon. It's going to knock them out of the air. And you can build it against Ivy if she pops her ult. It's going to knock Lash out of the air. It's really good against Haze. It's going to stop her ult. It's going to stop Seven's ult. It can stop Warden, for example, from his channeling ult if you catch him channeling. So really good item against them. The stun only lasts for about a second. It's not really useful. If you're just fighting somebody one-on-one, if you hit them with a knockdown, it will knock up, it'll stun them for just a second. Maybe if you're trying to chase somebody, it's good for that, but not necessarily a skirmishing item. This is really more to stop flyers. Okay, and then the next one here is Silence Glyph, and this is a skirmishing item. So this one's going to give you 150 spirit shield, so still a good sized spirit shield bump, and then a 1 meter per second sprint bonus. So pretty good benefits here. Not so good as Knockdown, but still good. And then this is going to fire a projectile that silences the target for 3 seconds and does 112 scaling spirit damage, and that's going to go up the more spirit you have. So Silence Glyph, this is a very good item versus heroes that have gotcha skills. So Lady Geist, Yamato, Pocket, any of these heroes that when you start getting them low on life, they have some, something like Lady Geist is going to try to swap her life with you. Yamato is going to cast her ultimate. Pocket's going to try to get away out of his briefcase. He's going to use his briefcase and try to teleport across the screen. So Silence Glyph is going to stop that. If you're fighting somebody, you get them low, you pop Silence Glyph on them when they get down to about 20% of their life. That's going to stop them from being able to use their gotcha items. You get 3 seconds to finish the job. This is super good item. It catches a lot of people off guard. If you're playing against a fed Yamato, which is all over the place, a lot of people playing that, then you want to hit your Silence Glyph. It's also good against some other heroes. So for example, Dynamo, Mo and Krill, and Viscous. So heroes that try to get on top of you, like Mo and Krill, if he's coming at you, in his burrow, or if Dynamo looks like he's trying to make a play to get, a big ultimate on everybody. If you see it happening, you can hit that Silence Glyph. Now it's only 25-meter range, so it is a little bit farther away, but this will kind of stop that from happening. And then of course Viscous, might go into his cube, and you can stop him from getting into his cube, or from doing the same like gotcha. He's gonna pop into his ball and zip away and get away from everybody. So it's good for stopping that. Okay, and then Silence Glyph's big brother is going to be Curse. Curse gives 20% weapon damage, 8 spirit power, and then the active there is going to interrupt, silence, and disarm, and prevents item usage. And it lasts for 3.25 seconds, and it's a 20-meter cast range. So it's a short cast range. It's kind of hard to use Curse effectively, but it is going to interrupt. So if you're playing against Seven, if you're playing against Haze, this is instantly going to interrupt them. So you don't have to wait for the 2 seconds from the knockdown to charge up. It's just going to immediately put a stop to their ultimates. This is almost mandatory versus a fed late game Haze. And even then, she's still going to sneak up on you while she's invisible. If you have Curse, though, this is going to interrupt her ultimate, and it's going to stop that. This is probably the ultimate one-on-one fight active. It's very expensive, but it's going to interrupt, silence, and disarm. So you disarm somebody for 3.25 seconds, very similar to Mo and Krill's skill. If you're fighting somebody one-on-one and you hit them with a Curse, you're going to win the fight, almost straight up. So Curse is really good, late game, expensive. Really, you want to build this specifically against Haze. You can build this also against Dynamo. It's going to stop Dynamo's ult right there in his tracks. And then of course 7. Okay, and then the last one there is Magic Carpet. Magic Carpet gives you 10% ability duration, which you cannot really get on any other items. It's going to give you 15 spirit power and 150 bonus health, so it's a good chunk of health. And then when you cast Magic Carpet, it's going to summon a carpet that lets you fly. It's going to give you 6 meter per second bonus move speed, and then it adds a 400 bullet shield and spirit shield that lasts for 17 seconds. Okay, it gives you a huge shield. It's kind of like using Divine Barrier. Let me go ahead and show you how this one works. So I'm going to build the Magic Carpet, and I'm going to build the Ethereal Shift. So if I'm trying to escape from somebody, I can jump, hit my Magic Carpet, and then Ethereal Shift. And you'll see once the shift is over, I'm on the carpet, and I can just zoom away to safety. So very good combination of items. Of course, it is a little bit expensive to build them both. If you want to just build the Magic Carpet, it's a really good tool for disengaging. It's a really good tool for split pushing. A lot of people like to build this on McGinnis so that you can try to push a tower, and if the entire team rotates to you, you can just pop the carpet and get out of dodge. And then the last item I want to talk about is not really a situational item, but it's going to combo with all of these situational items. So let me go ahead and sell those. We're going to look at superior duration. So duration extender and superior duration, it's going to add 26% towards any item that you buy. So if you get Silence Glyph and you buy superior duration, that's going to add almost a full second to your Silence Glyph. So this one, super powerful if you're going to build it in tandem. So if you're playing a hero that needs superior duration anyways, then this is going to automatically create a big bump to all the different active items that you're using. So some of the specific heroes that want to go for superior duration, like Dynamo, for example, if you're playing Dynamo, you want to look at building some of these situations for sure, or situational items for sure, because you're going to naturally be building superior duration. Same thing for like Kelvin. So this is a really good combination item for any of the situational items. Okay, so that's a lot of items to look at. The last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up the video is just when you should buy these sort of items. So I would suggest you try to fit one of these into your build there in the early game that's going to counter your lane opponent, and then one maybe more expensive item in the later game that's going to counter the most fed enemy on the other team. You're not going to really be able to fit a lot of these items into your build, so space is at a premium. So if you're able to get a lot of value against a specific hero early so you can win your lane, and then again get a lot of value towards the end of the game, maybe like if you buy Knockdown, for example, against a fed Haze, that's going to help you kind of maybe swing a big team fight at the end of the game and potentially win. So if you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate you watching. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more educational content, then like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.